And I'm Shruthi Satya. Welcome to Agora Math Circle. Before you continue watching this video, make sure to subscribe to the Agora Math Circle channel. This is Junior Advanced, and we're going to be learning about measurements. So there are a couple systems of measurements that are separated into the English system and the metric system. Let's talk about the English system. In the English system, length, area, weight, volume, and time can be measured. Length is measured in inches, feet, and miles. Area is measured in squares of the length, meaning square inches, square feet, also known as acres, and square miles. And weight is measured in ounces, pounds, and tons. Volume is measured in fluid ounces, cups, quarts, and gallons. And time, as we all know, is measured in seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years, and etc. So now you know about the English system. Now that we know about the English system, let's get further into it by starting with the changing units within the English system. Now before we start, I just want to include something known as dimensional analysis. Dimensional analysis allows us to treat units of measurements algebraically. Now, when it means algebraically, it basically means that it's allowing us to multiply or divide these units. And dimensional analysis is going to be useful when we try to solve these two problems over here after we go over this chart. So this chart is basically including the exact units of each measurement, which is length, area, weight, volume, and time. So I'm just going to go ahead and describe each one. So in 1 foot, there is 12 inches. In 1 yard, there's 3 feet. 1 mile, there's 5,280 feet. And in 1 square foot, there's 144 square inches. In 1 square yard, there's 9 square feet. And in 1 acre, there's 4,840 square yards. And in 1 square mile, there's 640 acres. So let's move on to weight now. So in 1 pound, there's 16 ounces, as we know. In 1 ton, there's 2,000 pounds, or lbs. So there's two ways to say pounds. So pounds and lbs is the same thing. So don't get mixed up when they come in, and both of them are there. So let's move on to volume. In 1 cup, there's 8 fluid ounces. Remember that when there's something like this, it usually means that it's fluid. Or fluid. So, in 1 quart, there's 4 cups. In 1 gallon, there's 4 quarts. And let's move on to time now. In 1 minute, there's 60 seconds, and you guys should all know this already. In 1 hour, there's 60 minutes. In 1 day, there's 24 hours. In 1 year, there's approximately 365 days. In 1 decade, there's 10 years, and in 1 century, there's 100 years. And for the last one over here, I like to remember it as cent. Usually means 100, so that's how I like to remember 100 years. So now let's move on to these questions. And to solve these questions, we're going to be using dimensional analysis as well as this chart over here. And I'm going to teach you guys how to actually convert units. So let's get started. So in number 1, it's asking us how many hours are there in 3 days. So let's look at which measurement we're going to have to use. In this case, we're going to have to use time, obviously, because they're asking us about days and hours. So let's get started. So we know that in 1 day, there's 24 hours. But in this case, we need to find out how many hours there are in 3 days. So it's basically 3 days. Make sure to write down the units always. We're trying to find out how many hours there are in 3 days. So we're multiplying, and dimensional analysis allows us to multiply. So 3 days times, we know that there are 24 hours in 1 day. 24 hours over 1 day. Now, do you see any same measurements? Yes, we do see days and days over here both. And actually, they're not measurements, they're just units. So we see 2 of the same units, so we can cross over. We always know that in any problem. So in this case, an example would be like this. We can always cross if it's the same, or we can simplify. So after we do this, we have left 3 times 24 hours. So we just do 24 times 3. And since there's no other units except for hours, we have to bring in 72 hours. Since 24 times 3 is 72. Now let's move on to the second problem. And I encourage you guys to do the practice problem on your own as soon as I'm done. And this in period is actually supposed to be inches, in case you guys get confused. Okay, so how many inches are there in 2 yards? So in this case, we're going to go back to length. So over here, we know that 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. However, we need to find inches. So this includes another step, which we didn't use in the first problem. In this problem, we need to simplify 3 feet into inches so we can find out how many inches there are in 1 yard. So we know that we have to find out how much. So we know that we need to find out how many inches there are in 1 yard. And we know that there's 3 feet, and we need to multiply that by 12 inches over 1 foot, because in 1 foot there's 12 inches. So this is the first step. We're still not done. So first we need to convert 3 feet into inches, which is why we're doing 3 feet into 12 inches over 1 foot. And we can do the same as we did in the last problem, and we can cross out the units since they're the same. So now all we have is 3 times 12 inches. And since inches is the only measurement, we get 36 inches. But we are not done yet. Now that we found out that in 1 yard there's 36 inches, we still need to convert. We still need to convert to find out how many inches there are in 2 yards, not just 1. So we know that in 1 yard there's 36 inches. So what we can do now is write 2 yards, because that's what we're multiplying by. 2 yards times 36 inches over 1 yard, because 1 yard equals 36 inches. So now we can cross, and I'm pretty sure you guys get the hang of this right now. So we get 2 times 36 inches, and 36 times 2 is again 72, and that's inches. So the answer is 72 inches, and in the first problem, the answer is 72 hours. I hope you guys understood these problems, and make sure to rewind it if you didn't quite understand everything properly. And I want you guys to go ahead and use a practice problem, and here's a hint: you have to use the length measurement. So that's all for this. So now let's learn about the metric system. To learn about this, we're going to be using the metric conversion table, which is this. This stands for King Henry died unusually drinking chocolate milk. So King stands for kilo, and it means that it's 10 times 10 times 10 times larger than a unit. And a unit is just a meter, a liter, or a gram. So it's the base. And 1 kilo is 1,000 units. Henry stands for hecto. So it's 10 times 10 times larger than a unit. So it's 100 times larger than a unit. So 1 hecto is equal to 100 units. Died stands for deca, and it's 10 times larger than a unit. So 1 deca is equal to 10 units. And unusually is units, which is just the base. So the measurements are going to be meters in length, liter in volume, and a gram in weight or mass. Then drinking stands for deci, so it's 10 times smaller than a unit. So 10 deci is equal to 1 unit. Chocolate stands for centi, and 10 times smaller than a unit. So it's 100 times smaller than a unit. So 100 centis is equal to 1 unit. And milk stands for milli. So it's 1,000 times smaller than a unit. 10 times 10 times 10 times smaller than a unit. So 1,000 millis is equal to 1 unit. So now let's go over the measurements for each. So in kilo, you can do kilometer, kiloliter, or kilogram. For hecto, you can do hectometer, hectoliter, decameter, decaliter, decagram. So for each one, you just add a meter, liter, or gram. So for deci, it's going to be decimeter, deciliter, or decigram. And for centi, it's going to be centimeter, centiliter, and centigram. And for milli, it's going to be milliliter, milliliter, millimeter, and milligram. So now you know about the metric system and the metric conversions. Now let's do some practice problems based on what we have learned using all of these measurements. Let's read the first one out loud together. Bianca ran 1,600 meters around the park. How many kilometers did she run? Now let's use our measurements to solve this problem. Now we know that 1 kilo is equal to 1,000 units. In this case, our units are meters. So let's write that down. The units is meters. So we know that 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. So 1 kilo is equal to 1,000 meters. Now we have to solve how many kilometers are in 1,600 meters. So to do that, let's divide this by this. So that's, we can cross out the zeros and we get 16 over 10, which we all know is 1.6. So 1.6 kilometers is equal to 1,600 meters. Now let's solve for the second one. Phoebe walked 1 kilometer to the cafe. Later she walked 50 meters to the market. Then she walked 40 hectometers to her friend's house. How many kilometers did she walk in total? Now we know that in order to solve, we have to convert all of these to kilometers and add. As you can see, the first one is already in kilometers, so we can leave it as it is and write it down on the side. So let's solve for 50 meters and kilometers. As we know that 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. So we have to solve for 50 meters. Now, how would we do that? We have to divide this by 50 to see what we get. Now we can cross out one of the zeros and we get 100 over 5, which we all know is 20. Now since we divided this by 20 to get 50, we have to divide 1 by 20 to get the answer. Now 1 over 20. We know that that's our answer, but let's convert it into a decimal to make it easier. So we have to multiply the numerator and denominator by 5 to get 100 to convert into a decimal. Now 1 times 5 is 5, and 20 times 5 is 100. And so 5 over 100 is equal to 0.05. So that's 0.05 kilometers. Let's write that down right here. Now let's solve for the third one. 40 hectometers, and we have to convert that into kilometers. First, let's convert it into meters, and then convert it into kilometers. Let's erase this to make it easier. Okay, so we have 40 hectometers. As you can see over here, 1 hecto is equal to 100 units. So 1 hectometer is equal to 100 units. So 1 HM is equal to 100 units, or 100 meters. Now we have to convert this into 40. So we know that this is 40. So we also have to multiply this by 40 as well. So that's 100 times 40. And there's 3 zeros. So that's 4,000. So we have 4,000 meters. But we still have to convert this into kilometers. As you see, 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. So 4 kilometers has to equal to 4,000 meters. So let's write that down right here. So all we have to do now is add all of them. 4 plus 1 is 5. And we leave this the same, so it's 5.05 kilometers. So that's our answer for this problem. Hope you understood both of these practice problems. Now let's look at changing between English and metric units. So let's first go a look at the measurement conversions. So these are all the measurement conversions, and I don't want to go through them one by one because it's probably going to take a long time, and you guys are probably going to get bored. So let's just use these conversions to find the answers and the solution to this practice problem. So let's first solve the first one. If a man is 6 feet tall, how many meters tall is he? Well, let's look at the closest conversion we can find to convert feet
2 meters. So let's go ahead and look at the chart we have here. Well, if we look, we have 1 foot equals 30.48 centimeters. And that's about the closest we can get. So let's go ahead and write that down. So we get 1 foot equals 30.48 centimeters. And from past conversions, we also know that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. So to find out how many meters there are in a centimeter, all we need to do is divide by 100. So we get 30.48 divided by 100. And we know that we have to bring the decimal back 2 places to the left. So we go 1, 2, and we get 0.3048. So the answer is 0.3048 meters. Make sure to always include the units when writing down the answer. Now let's move on to the second one. The speed limit of a highway is 70 miles per hour. How many kilometers per hour is that equal to? Now let's go ahead and look at the chart again and find the closest conversion that we can use to help us figure out this problem. So let's go ahead and look at over here. Right, okay, over here. What do we have? We have 1 mile equals 1.61 kilometers. And since we're doing miles to kilometers, this is probably what we should use other than kilometers to miles. So we have 70 miles, and we have to convert that to kilometers, and it's actually 70 miles per hour. And we have to convert that to kilometers per hour. So to first do that, we have to convert to kilometers. So we get 70 times, obviously, 1.61, since, I'm going to write it down here, 1 mile equals 1.61 kilometers. So let's look at this again. 70 times 1.61 is what we should do. So again, as I said, what we should do is just forget about this decimal bit. I'll add it in later. So let's just do 161 times 7 and then add in the 0 later. So we get 1 times 7 is 7. 6 times 7 is 42. Add in the 4 over here. 1 times 7 is 7. 7 plus 4 is 11. So we get 1,127, and we have to add in the 0 here. Now let's add back in this decimal. And we know that since the decimal is 2 places back here, we have to add it in. We have to add it in 2 places back. So we go 1, 2. So we don't need the 0 anymore here. I mean, it's optional. But now we have 112.7. So our answer is 112.7 kilometers per hour. So that's the answer to this equation.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. If you have any questions, you can email info@agoramathcircle.org or comment below and we'll reply back. Maybe. And if you want to see practice things or anything about us, you can visit our website, which is basically the end of the email, but without the info and the end. So bye!